I declare this courtroom open. What's the first case?
The People versus Mrs. Alice Golding, my lord.
Read the charges.
Mrs. Alice Golding, you are charged with the following. 1. Failure to maintain your body in a fit and proper condition. 2. Failure to live up to the modest expectations of your mother. 3. Neglect and abuse of 3 teenage children. 4. Failure to maintain a household in the barest minimum of order. 5. Failure to be a good wife, causing unnecessary stress to your husband, David Golding, and causing him to seek sexual gratification outside of the marital bed. 6. Failure to take up a stimulating second career and have it all as recommended in the Women's Hour programme on Radio 4. 7. Failure to maintain an ideal marriage as defined in the pages of the Daily Mail newspaper and the novels of Mrs. Barbara Cartler, deceased. Are you Mrs. Alice Golding of 18 at the Willows, Hampton? A desirable neighbourhood on the outskirts of town, well away from any council housing and immigrants.
I don't understand why I'm here.
The clerk has just read out the charges.
Yes, I know, but I don't understand why I'm here. I don't know how I got here. I was having a dream about a white rabbit.
You are here because you're here. You are the defendant. This is the courtroom. It's quite simple. Now, how do you plead?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure is not a proper plea. It's either guilty or not guilty. That's all there is. Well, apart from guilty due to certain circumstances, how do you plead?
It's very complicated. I don't know.
I can't write I don't know. So how do you plead?
Well,
Are you mad?
I am sort of guilty, I suppose.
Oh, well, that'll do. Guilty, sort of, I suppose. Right. I call upon the prosecuting counsel to make their opening statements.
Thank you, my lord. It is our intention to prove that this woman, Mrs. Alice Golding, has on numerous occasions failed to live up to the standards and expectations of those around her, the expectations of her mother, her children and her husband, that she has failed to give proper care to her mother, managing only the occasional brief visit.
I spent half my life there.
Mrs. Golding, you will have ample opportunity to state your case later in good time. Please proceed.
She has neglected her children and caused them to grow up lazy, unhappy and dissatisfied. She has failed to fulfill the role of housewife, whilst constantly demanding what she describes as a more meaningful role. We shall establish that her body, once in almost perfect condition, has suffered from abuse, ranging from binge eating, including the entire consumption of a Colin the giant caterpillar birthday cake, to virtual starvation. In short, we shall prove that this woman you see before you has failed in every way imaginable.
Thank you. I now call upon the opening remarks for the counsel for the defence. Thank you.
He didn't say anything.
Who?
The counsel for the defence, he just stood there.
Oh, Mrs. Golding, if you're going to interrupt every 5 minutes, we're going to be here all afternoon. Now, I want you to get on with all this. Now, where are we? You'll get your chance soon enough. Counsel for the prosecution.
I'm obliged, my lord. I call as my first witness Mrs. Alice Golding.
Alice Golding, do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole So help you God.
I do.
You do?
I do.
Well, that would be a first then. Proceed.
Are you Mrs. Alice Golding of the Willows, 18 Willows, an upper middle class enclave in the more expensive part of town, well away from immigrants and council tenants?
Yes.
Are you the wife of Mr. David Golding, solicitor, ex-rugby player, round tabler, bit of a lad, and tutor son to Mr. and Mrs. Golding, to whom he pays a visit each Sunday morning without fail?
Yes.
Are you the mother of Benjamin, Lauren, and Victoria Golding?
Yes.
Mrs. Golding, how do you regard your relationship with your children?
Well, it's sort of normal, I suppose.
Normal, you say?
Yes.
Your son Benjamin has just gone to university, has he not?
Yes.
And this was strictly against your wishes.
What?
Is it not true that you did everything you could to stop your son embarking on this crucial stage in his education?
No.
Did you or did you not say to your husband, and, I quote, I don't want him to go, he's my little boy.
Well, yes, but
And does that not clearly show that you did not want him to go to university?
He was my little Ben. I just kept thinking about him when he was small. You know, he nearly died. We spent 3 days just
Calm
sitting
down,
back
Mrs.
there.
Golding, this was years ago.
Yes, but he's still my baby, laying in that tiny cot trying to get his breath, and he always will be. Haven't you got children?
Relevance! Mrs. Golding, you are here to answer questions, not to ask them. Now, all my children went to prep school before they were 8. Yes, best place for them too, I think. Godless. Carry on.
Yes, thank you for that. Now, Lauren and Victoria, do you get on well with your other 2 children?
They're adolescents. All adolescents are difficult.
Are they, every single one of them? Surely not. That Harry Styles seems like a nice boy. There's, well, no difficulty there at all. Let us look at this another way, perhaps. What do Lauren and Victoria think of you?
They seem...
Yes.
They seem to despise me. I don't know why. All I ask is that they tidy their room occasionally or do the washing up every once in a while, but no. They just lie there all day on the sofa and they don't talk to me. They just grunt whenever I speak to them or shout if I ask them to do anything. And Vic smokes all the time. Lauren is either drunk or stoned.
Yes, and these are typical teenagers, are they?
Yes.
Typical? Or the product of a deprived upbringing. Too lax in childhood, perhaps, neglected whilst you pursued a second career, unsuccessful, overindulged, spoiled.
I can't have spoiled and neglected them.
Well, you seem to have done a good job.
I'm not perfect.
Clearly.
I did my best, though. I gave up my career
Oh, briefly.
for 20 years. The kitchen sink was my horizon for 20 years. I didn't farm my children off with some childminder. I devoted my life to them.
And yet, as you said yourself, they clearly hold you in contempt.
Oh, contempt? Who's in contempt? I will not have contempt in my court.
No, I'm referring to the plaintiff's children,
Oh, are they in contempt?
of their mother.
Oh, well, that's all right then.
They've got no right to hold me in contempt. I've got a brain. I've got a first-class honours degree.
Well, in that case, Mrs. Golding, you'll be familiar with the Freudian concept of childhood trauma having a dramatic effect in adulthood.
Yes.
And did you ever shout at your children when they were younger?
Sometimes.
Sometimes, meaning what? Once a day, once a week, once a month?
Once a week, maybe. Everyone shouts at the children.
Do they? Do they indeed? Perhaps there are many parents who do not find such verbal violence necessary. Surely!
They used to drive me mad, the 3 of them, when David was away.
And so, to quell your depression, you shouted at your children.
It wasn't like that.
Ever strike them?
No, never.
You've never struck them.
Well, I might have given them a smack once or twice.
Perhaps I could remind you of one particular incident. So Saturday afternoon, when you not only struck your children, but you locked them in the garden shed and told them you were going to sell them to the gypsies.
I'm not sure. I don't...
It's quite simple, Mrs. Golding. Did you or did you not threaten to sell your children to the gypsies?
No. Yes. Maybe. Oh, I hadn't slept all night and David was away. I had the flu. The cat was sick everywhere.
So a cat being sick is sufficient reason to terrorise your children?
No, of course not. But when you haven't slept for weeks and you're lonely and frightened and you've had just about as much as you're going to take, I made it up to them. We all sat on the sofa and cried. They understood. Mummy was just tired.
Sounds like a madhouse to me.
It is.
You
Sometimes it's like a madhouse.
If you want a good nanny, you do. We had one, yeah. What's her name? Mary Poppins, was it?
Mary Poppins was a fictional character, Your Honour.
Was she? Was she indeed? You know, I knew there was something strange about that woman.
Yes, right, so. Let us turn, perhaps, if we may, to your own mother, Mrs. Wilson. Do you consider that your mother leads a happy life?
It's not too bad.
Not too bad. Living in Winchester, alone, in your 70s, with irritable bowel syndrome. That's a happy life.
She's got loads of friends. You know, a big house, plenty of money.
Yes, material things perhaps, but surely she'd be happier in the bosom of her family.
I know there really isn't room for her.
You could buy a bigger house with a granny annex, perhaps.
A what?
A granny annex, Your Honour. It's a small flat attached to one's home where an elderly relative can live in the safety and care of their...
Oh, I see. To sort of keep them away from loose women and drinking too much brandy, or being thrown out of the king's arms, that sort of thing.
It's more to protect than to contain.
She doesn't even like me.
Your own mother doesn't like you.
She criticises me all the time.
Good, you, of course, you're above criticism.
No, but she criticises everything I do. The way I look, the way I bring up my children, the way I treat my husband.
Frankly, I'm finding it very hard to believe that this delightful old pensioner, a very popular figure and respected in Winchester, could possibly criticise her only daughter in this manner.
She doesn't criticise me openly.
Well, what does she do then?
She tops!
She toots.
Yes, she tots.
That's it.
It's enough. Every time I do something that she disapproves of, which is practically everything except breathing, she tots. I open the living room, she tots. I switch on the telly for the kids, she tots. I shout at them, she tots. I don't shout at them, she tots!
So you're prepared to leave your dear old mother to live a life of isolation and loneliness in Winchester because she has the misfortune to make an unfortunate noise which you interpret as criticism.
It is criticism.
Well, it might be, I don't know, loose dentures.
It's not loose dentures.
Or maybe it's just, who knows, paranoia.
It's not paranoia. I am not being paranoid.
What's she not?
No, she's not being paranoid.
Paranoid? What's that? Some sort of modern camera?
Paranoid. Paranoid. It's when you're convinced that other people are after you and threatening you and accusing you.
Is it similar to imagining that you're being stalked by an armadillo named Frank? That sort of thing?
Not really, Minna.
Pity. Would have been good to get to the bottom of that one.
Perhaps we could draw a veil over this rather sorry tale of familial neglect and move on to another of your failed relationships. Mrs. Golding, how would you describe your husband?
Well, he's ordinary.
Oh, what is ordinary?
You know, middle-aged like me, getting a bit old, a bit fat, a bit bald, drinks a bit too much.
And when does your husband drink?
No particular time.
Is it not true that it is his habit to have a drink when he arrives home at night?
I suppose so.
And you see a connection there?
A connection where?
between your husband arriving home to the sight of an untidy house, squabbling teenagers, an unresponsive wife, and his need to dull the pain with alcohol.
I thought everybody had a drink when they got
Oh, hardly with that.
Don't you? Not even a small sherry?
No.
Hey, you're not a Muslim, are you?
No, lad. No.
Extraordinary.
Perhaps we can, turn to the subject of your husband and the recent affairs he's been having.
He hasn't had affairs.
Oh, I see. They're not affairs. Pray tell us how else you would describe a sexual relation between a married man and a woman other than his wife.
He has been with other women.
All through your marriage?
No, just the last couple of years.
And why is that?
I don't know. Perhaps you should ask him. He's the one with the cock.
I will not have profanity in my court.
Sorry, he's the one with the penis.
That's even worse.
Mrs. Golding, your husband is not the one on trial. Now, you were an attractive woman when you married, weren't you?
I suppose so.
No suppose about it. It's a very definite fact. If I may submit to the court, Exhibit A. Exhibit A. Oh! Photograph of Miss Alice Van Wilson, age 18, on the beach at Brighton.
All right, show me that.
Evidence for that. You will agree that there's quite a contrast between yourself in those days and yourself now.
Yeah, that was 30 years ago. I am not Peter Pan.
No, but surely you agree it's a woman's duty to keep her body in good shape.
It is in good shape. It's just middle-aged, that's all. We get older. You try having 3 children ripped out of your body.
Mrs. Golding, there is no need for hysterics.
Hysterics! God, if only you men had to do it. We get older, things wear out.
Yes, well, so let's turn to the holiday, if we may.
Holidays, is it? Oh, well, I'm not really. Don't you think we ought to finish this case first?
What is the accused?
Is this really relevant?
Oh, yes. This is very pertinent to the case, my lad.
She's not going to show us slides, is she?
Oh, relax.
Oh, thank God for that.
So, the holiday. The time that things really came to a head. Last July, you booked a gîte en France, right?
Yes.
Who booked the holiday?
My husband?
Does he always book the holiday?
Yes.
Despite his busy schedule and full-time job?
Yes. He likes booking the holiday. In fact, he insists on booking the holiday. He likes a nice little gîte in France with his own cook on tap.
Your own cook? Oh, that's very nice.
I believe she's referring to herself as a cook. It's called irony.
She does that as well? Oh, good girl.
No, irony!
I know!
How would you describe this holiday?
Miserable.
What way?
Well, they were all on at me. They said that I shouldn't be seen in a bikini.
Bikini? Oh, are there photographs?
They said that every time I got in the pool, there was a tsunami.
What?
But it's a tidal wave, my lad.
Well, why didn't you say tidal wave?
And were you overweight?
No. Well, a bit. I'd starved myself to get in that bikini as it was.
And this was mocking, all in the spirit of good fun.
Yeah, so there it was. But I don't go on about David's paunch, do I? And Vix is hardly anorexic. Come on, if I said anything about her weight, we'd have to scrape her off the ceiling. And Lauren barely surfaces between one joint and the next. But am I allowed to say anything? No. But they can say what they like about me. About my cellulite, about lines around my eyes, or if if I have 3 glasses of wine. I'm just this ancient, middle-aged, stupid mother staggering about the place. What do I matter?
What else happened in this holiday?
I was just wandering in the village. And then there was the station. And then there was the train. So I just got on it.
And ended up in?
In Paris. I don't even think they noticed I was gone, you know.
And what did you do in Paris?
Wandered about a bit, went to some galleries, booked into a bed and breakfast. I spent most of the time just sitting in cafes drinking coffee. Oh, so peaceful. It was such a relief.
And this was where you met the Frenchman?
Yes. We got chatting. He was very charming, of course. Called me an English rose. Couldn't believe that I had teenage children. Said I was very sexy. You know, all the stuff that these people come out with.
You fell for it?
Yeah. Funny that. I sort of preferred being referred to as a mysterious, beautiful Englishwoman rather than a beached whale in an undersized bikini frightening the ducks.
And intimacy took place?
Yes!
Oh.
But it wasn't just sex. It was way more than that. We just sort of melted into each other. I know, it's stupid really. It was just a performance for him, but for me, at that moment, it was exactly what I needed. And if none of it had happened, I think I might have just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Disappeared? Oh, what is she talking about now?
When you walk down the street, do you notice these young girls in their short skirts and boots and bare tummies?
Of course!
There are other women there, you know. Mothers, aunties, grandmas.
Other women? Nobody ever told me about this.
Middle-aged women, old women, nobody sees them. But I don't mind. I'd sort of got used to the idea of getting old. The thing is, it's just nice once in a while if someone gave you a compliment. Just because we don't dress like prostitutes doesn't mean we don't want to feel, you know, sexy sometimes.
Oh. Would you regard your life, Mrs. Golding, as a success?
I don't know. I don't even think I know what a successful life is.
Oh, it's quite simple, isn't it? I mean, it's a good job, well brought up kids, a nice contented marriage, 4x4 on the drive with a sports car, house in the country, sex 3 times a week, granny in her little attic, knitting away by the fire.
Is that what a successful life is?
Oh, yes, Your Honour!
I don't have any of those things.
But on the bright side, you do get to put people in prison.
True. True.
If you could live your life again, would you do the same things?
Probably. I don't know. The thing is, you see, I quite like my life, really. It's just been a bit spoiled by other people.
Oh. Well, on that sad note, my lad, prosecution rests.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. I now call upon the counsel for defence. Thank you. Now.
And he didn't say anything!
Who?
The counsel for the defence!
No, well, it's just as well, really. We've only been a lot of nonsense, mitigating circumstances, all that sort of trial.
Am I allowed to say something?
If you must. But it won't make a scrap of difference.
The thing is, it's different for you men, isn't it? You go through life sort of unconnected. You live your lives and then you die. Whereas for me, I'm like Superman. I can hear my children crying from half a mile away, and that's why we live so long. Because we can't bear the thought of not being there for our children and our grandchildren. So everything that happens, everything that goes wrong, is our fault because we shouted at them, or because we didn't go to them for the 10th time that night, and that was the time they were really sick, and we just lay there in our beds selfishly. I know. I am guilty. But I can't help it. Even if I was perfect, even if I'd never shouted at my children, or I'd never snapped at my mother, or never eaten an entire column of giant caterpillar bloody cake, I would still have this terrible guilt. And that is all there is.
Is that it? Oh, well, I suppose I could ask for psychological reports, but wouldn't do any good. I never met a psychiatrist yet who wasn't a Guardian reading, mealy mouthed half-wit. Right, Mrs. Alice Golding, I find you guilty as charged. I sentence you to life.
Life imprisonment?
No, not life imprisonment. Just life. And if you take my advice, you'll stop trying to make any sense of it. I did years ago, makes life a lot easier. Have I finished, gentlemen?
Excuse me?
Oh, what?
What happens now?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What happens now? Am I supposed to go somewhere?
I don't know.
Right. So I'll just go then.
Yes, just go.
Okay. Bye.
What's the next case?
A woman accused of vandalism.
What's she done?
Smashed a glass ceiling, apparently.
Oh, there's nothing not true, is there? I tell you, the world's gone mad. I can remember when women were pretty. They livened the place up, like flowers, you know. Oh, you mark my words. There'll be women judges one of these days.
There already are.
Oh, God, help them. Oh, adjourn for lunch.
Dowding and Derek Tobias. One more time, please, for